Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series on Bard spellcasting, talking about each level of spells as you progress with this D&D class, talking about my top picks for people who may not be as familiar with spellcasting or who just want a good piece of advice for how to run their Bard. We're talking about second level spells today, and we are talking in my typical way. I split spells into two categories, combat and utility, and I give a top 5 with 2 spells from each of those lists plus an honorable mention. And these are just the recommended spells. I think most players know that magic can both be potent in combat as well as powerful outside of it, and having a good mixture of the two makes for a great spellcaster. So yeah, second level spells. You're level 3 bard now, you've got your subclass, you've started to come into your own as a caster, and you get your second level spells, a step up from what you've been using so far. What are the options I recommend? We'll get into the details here in just a moment. Before we do though, I'd like to let you know, Relaxed Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know you're a supporter. Also, you get early access to my videos. I upload videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload them a day early for members only. And finally, you get VIP access in my community Discord. Anyone can join Relaxed Fantasy Review's Discord. There's links in the channel and video descriptions. But if you're a channel member, then you can come straight into the VIP room, talk directly to me about D&D, the YouTube channel, whatever you like. If any of that sounds interesting to you, you can click the join button. It's just down there next to the subscribe button. And if it doesn't interest you, that's totally fine too. Just being here at all, watching the video, liking, subscribing to the channel, these are all great ways to support me. So thank you for watching my content here on YouTube. So let's start off with the number 2 spell on the combat list. For the bard, I recommend the spell Shatter. Shatter is kind of like baby's first fireball. It's a 10-foot radius sphere, so it can cover a decent space on the battlefield. Creatures within it make a save. If they fail, then they take thunder damage. It's a great damage type that not many creatures resist, just pure sonic power. It does a good amount of damage. It targets a decent area. It's an AoE effect, and bards are not typically the strongest damage dealers in the game. It's not their niche. But coming into a room, seeing a bunch of weak enemies, and being the first to go and dropping a shatter on top of them at level 3, that'll wipe out most enemies you see in the game at this kind of level. If not wiping them out, at least significantly harming them. It's a great effect, and, for something that is a fireball, imitator, but it comes first, I think that it certainly is worth a look for anyone who wants to beef up their damage just a little bit. As far as the utility spell goes, for number 2, I have given it to Suggestion. Suggestion is like Charm Person on steroids. It is truly one of the strongest second level spells in the game, and if it wasn't for the number 1 on the list, I would have definitely called this the best one the bard had. Suggestion, you force a creature to make a saving throw. If they fail, you get to make a suggestion. Couple sentences. I believe the spell specifies 25 words. And whatever you suggest to them, they have to carry it out. It doesn't have to sound like a good idea. It doesn't have to be something they would typically do. It just has to be achievable and not directly harm them. So you can't tell them to jump off a cliff. You can't tell them to stab themselves. And you can't tell them, oh, you can fly, go, jump off that cliff over there. No, that won't work. But you could tell a rich person to give all their treasure away to the citizens of the city. You could tell the captain of the guard to go and fire all of his guardsmen. You could tell a bandit leader to tell his men to stand down, and all of them need to go home and take care of their families. These are all very reasonable things that Suggestion could legitimately pull off. Now keep in mind, suggestion is still a spell. It still has components, verbal components, and it does take your concentration. People will know you're doing it. If you're a bard and you just try to do this in the middle of a social situation, other people will see you casting a spell and then magically influencing someone. So be cautious. It's better, honestly, on a sorcerer who can subtly cast it and then no one can tell that it's been done. On a bard, though, it is still a very powerful spell, and if you're able to, pull it off without people getting too suspicious, it can be game-changingly strong. Now, before we get to number 1, I'll bring up my honorable mention. For this one, it's Heat Metal. This is a combat-focused spell. You cast it on a metal object. It can be a character's weapon, or their armor, or a piece of jewelry they're wearing. It can be, the spokes of a metal wheel, or the handle of a door. You can basically choose any metal object you can see. When you do so, it becomes red hot. Now, there are some utility purposes for this, but the main thing you're doing is you're trying to heat up something that a character is holding. They then take some fire damage just for holding it, and then get to make a save to see whether or not they can hang on to it. If a creature really wants to keep gripping their sword while it's been heated up, it takes a con save to do so. The damage doesn't get reduced, though. If they keep holding onto it, they're just going to take the damage. It is automatic damage. It does take your concentration. The best example of this is when you see a creature in full plate armor. Plate armor takes 10 minutes to remove, I think. So way longer than combat. And the amount of damage that they'll take that they cannot avoid is actually kind of scary. Obviously, they could try to hit you to break your concentration, but if you just cast this and then hide or fly away or ride off on a horse or something, they're just cooking in their armor, and there's nothing they can do about it. It is a terrifyingly strong spell with specific use cases. Obviously, not every fight you're going to be fighting creatures that have metal on them, but when they do, this is really good. All right, so number 1 on my recommended for combat spells at level 2 is Hold Person. Hold Person, you target a humanoid, has to be a humanoid. They make a save. If they fail, they're paralyzed. Paralysis is pretty brutal. Robs creatures of their action economy, stops them from moving, and anyone who attacks them has advantage, and if you hit them, it's an automatic crit, if you're using attack rolls anyway. This is a absolutely encounter-ending spell. If you manage to hit, a captain of the bandits or something with this, your barbarian just runs up to them and is probably going to kill them in one turn. They get to repeat the save every turn, but how many turns does it take if you're hitting a creature with advantage and critting them every time you land a shot? Most creatures do not have enough hit points to survive that, even at the low levels. So I gotta give this one the number 1 spot. It is one of the best lockdowns in the early game that you can get. But for the number 1 spell on the utility list, this is actually my favorite 2nd level spell in all of D&D, and if any character can take it, I recommend they do. Invisibility. Invisibility is exactly what it sounds like. For the purposes of hiding and maneuvering, you cannot be perceived by sight. You still make noise, you can still interact with objects and they'll move, and invisibility, while it does last for an hour with your concentration, if you cast another spell or you make an attack against a creature, the invisibility ends early. So this is not a combat trick. This is a utility-focused trick. You could use it in combat, but that's sacrificing a 2nd level spell for a single attack at advantage, because the enemy won't see you making it until afterwards. But, in an emergency, maybe I could see it working. But I think that it is the best out-of-combat spell around, especially at these levels. Being able to sneak past guards using, Pass Without Trace paired with this is just nasty, but that's not on the Bard spell list. But most of the time, if you're unseen, creatures have disadvantage on their perception checks to perceive you anyway, and that's assuming they're making them. Normally, it would just be passive checks to find you, which are also penalized when you're invisible and unseen. It is an absolutely incredible power to be able to go invisible. And lasting an hour like it does, being able to upcast it to target more creatures, it is just hard to beat that kind of power. And I have to give Invisibility the number one spot on this list. It is one of my favorites, and I don't have any shame about that. It's awesome. And that's it. If you're a level 3 bard looking for spells to choose at this level, your subclass does, influence this choice. But for me, I would say grab Hold Person, grab Invisibility, Suggestion perhaps. And if you're looking for something specific for damage, you could try Shatter. There's a lot of good options on here. But I would say that these are the recommendations I have in general for bards at this level, and I hope this helps. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, and keep your eyes peeled for more spell reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.